Bachelor, King of Persia edition, King Xerxes had a 6-month-long banquet to show his power and strength in his entire kingdom. The king and his guests had a great time as they celebrated. So after the 6-month celebration, they had another 7-day banquet, and Queen Vashti had also her own banquet. Everything was great until the king asked Vashti to come to his banquet, and she refused. This made the king angry, and he banished her and removed her from being queen. Now the king is looking for a new queen. These are the candidates on this episode of The Bachelor. Please play along.
Next episode of The Bachelor, we have with us our good friend, King Xerxes, King of Persia. Xerxes, what do you like about being on the show?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to The Bachelor for allowing me to come and find the Queen of Persia. Because I'm sure you're all aware about my ex-queen, Vashti, and how terrible that went down. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah, that was quite the drama and everything that happened there.
She was completely overcharged.
Yes, wow. Awesome. So we picked a few women that we thought would be best for you, and we figured, let's give this a shot. They look to be like a really good match. Let's see what you think about them.
Right?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're nervous.
I'm okay.
Oh, he is very
I'm ready though.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So can you please tell us about yourself?
My name is Brittany. If you don't know, you might have seen me on some of the magazines, but anyways, yes, my name is Brittany, and I'm from Honduras in Persia.
Fancy place. Lots of like red carpet, Hollywood stuff happening there. What would you say your favorite characteristic of the king would be?
Well, obviously, I'm very dedicated. I even got this replicate of the king's crown, and I held it up on my shelf. And for me, I think the king is he's so beautiful. Like, he's just a really beautiful human. And I think for any royalty, like, that's a really good characteristic. And as you can see, I really meet that standard. So, personally, I think I make a great queen. I'm dedicated, I'm loyal, and obviously, you want this face on your middle, so.
Very good candidate. Thank you. We have our next contestant here. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Hi, I'm Pam.
Hey! Can you tell us what you like most about the king? Alright. If you were chosen as king, what would be like the first thing you would ever want to do?
Save all the animals and just have world peace for Persia.
Very good qualities. Thank you. For this episode, we thought it'd be a very good idea to hear from the ex-wife of King Xerxes. How's it going, Vashti?
I'm it.
Can you tell us what happened between you?
You know what happened. What happened? Everybody.
Well, we've all seen the tabloids and we've all heard the Hollywood gossip, but just for our audience and our guests, can you expound on what it was, why the king took this?
Yeah, I can. So, I was having a party with him. He was feasting with the men. We were enjoying ourselves, having a wonderful night. And he sent an order, demands me to come before all of the men of the kingdom to embarrass me. Calls me away from my party. And then banishes me because I won't go. I will not give it to him. He's so selfish.
I believe that. I 100% agree with you. If you were made queen, can you
I would go back to the front.
That would be Persia's
Yeah.
first queen. That would be an accomplishment of the...
Are you gonna vote for me?
I don't know if it's a vote.
Do you think he's gonna take me back? Oh my gosh, I'm into this. Do you think you could help me?
I don't know. We have with us another good candidate. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Esther. I'm from Susan.
Good to meet you, Esther. You have a really nice smile. What would you say is your most favorite characteristic of the king?
Well, I don't really know the king yet, but he seems to be really good. I'd like to get to know him more.
Yeah, he does run his kingdom quite well. Persia has benefited a lot over his rule. What would be one of the first things that you would do, or like one of the most important things you would do in that school?
Well, I think I'm just gonna take care of the people. I love the people of Persia. Taking care of them would really make me happy.
That sounds awesome. I think you have a good stand in this competition.
Thank you.
The king loved Esther more than all the women, and she found favor and kindness with him. The king chose her to be his queen. Esther was a Jew who had not returned to Jerusalem after the exile from the previous years. Her cousin Mordecai raised her as a daughter since both of her parents died when she was young. This Jewish heritage has been kept a secret all this time for her protection, changing her name from Hadassah to Esther. As Esther was being blissfully crowned as queen, the eunuchs were plotting for the king's demise. Mordecai overheard and rushed to tell the queen after her coronation. In this way, Mordecai saved the king's life, but had not received any recognition.
Haman,
Yes, my king. I'm here.
can you make sure that everyone in Persia is honoring me?
Yes, it's a great honor. Thank you. I will do so right away.
All stand for Haman. All bow before Haman.
What is this? What is your name? I demand to know. Why do you not bow before the king? It's the highest authority.
I am Mordecai, a Jew.
Ah, those Jews.
You all may sit down.
Someday.
Haman was so angry by Mordecai's refusal to bow before him. Haman began to plot to kill the entire Jewish people because of his anger towards Mordecai. He devised a plan to use the king's authority to prepare an edict for all Jews to be wiped out because of Haman's deep hatred.
Ah, my king, just the man I was looking for. Did you know there are people in your kingdom? They do not respect your authority. They refuse to bow to your name and to me.
Haman, take my signet ring and make with it whatever edict you desire to make sure these people that do not honor my name are punished.
Yes, it is mine, finally.
With the authority of the king's signet ring, Haman sent this letter to all the provinces in Persia. As Persia was the world power, this edict was a big deal in the annihilation of the Jewish race. Pass this letter along to Mordecai.
By the name of King Xerxes, and sealed with his seal, all Jews are to be destroyed, and will be ransomed 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those who carry the king's business. Long live the king, in short, live the Jews.
This grieved Mordecai greatly. He did Jewish custom in sorrow, crying out to the Lord.
Ah!
He then sent a message to Esther, the queen.
My dear Esther, I am so sorrowful because Haman has decided to take his anger for me out on the entire Jewish race. It is said that whoever kills the Jews will be given 10,000 talents of silver. Please go to the king and implore his favor. Plead with him for your people. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you will not have attained royalty for such a time as this. Something has to be done. I will go to the king and invite him to a banquet, then plead for the people. Go to Mordecai and have all the Jews fast and pray for me. If I die, I die.
Oh, my Queen Esther! You're so brave, but you got this, girl.
In this time, the king had a law that if anyone was to come before him unsummoned, that person should surely die. The only exception is if the king holds out his golden scepter. Esther would have known this law full well and been wary of the king's response because of Queen Vashti. Esther is making a bold gesture of faith in her relationship with the king and the favor she has received. This act would be punishable by death, yet Queen Esther approaches.
What is this? She defies your own laws!
No! What troubles you, my beloved?
If I have found favor in your sight, will you and Haman come to a banquet
Oh.
with me?
We will.
What an honor.
Now, Esther, what is your plea?
Come to a banquet tomorrow, and I will tell you my plea.
We will be there.
Thank you, I will be there.
Good night, Esther. We are
King
staying.
delights in my name.
While the king was reading to help him sleep, he came across a story of Mordecai, the Jew, who had helped him save his life. And this stirred the king deeply to honor this man. But how? Meanwhile, Haman came home to his wife. He complained to her about how the Jews were pests and deserved to be annihilated because of Mordecai. She urged him to build a gallows and to ask the king's authority to hang Mordecai. The next day, Haman decided to speak with the king and hatch his evil plot.
King provides his favorites.
Haman, what must I do to honor a man?
Honor him now. He must be one to honor me. Oh, you should give him your best robe and parade him in front of your people in honor.
Excellent. We'll have this done for Mordecai.
Mordecai? No!
Yes, Mordecai.
Fine. Mordecai, some days you put me to my end. What am I going to do? All hail the great Mordecai!
The very next day, there was a second banquet.
Oh, yes. Have a banquet with the king and queen. Woohoo!
the second banquet, the king asked for Esther's plea. Esther told him the king of Haman's plot to annihilate the Jews, her very own people. Haman became desperate and irate with Esther. The king saw this violation. He was angry. He took his signet ring back. The king ordered for Haman to be killed. Haman was put to death on his own gallows that he prepared for Mordecai.
Unfortunately, Esther, the edict that was made by Haman was under my name, and therefore I am restricted to that law also. But fear not, Mordecai, your cousin, who is a Jew, he can help us. Send for Mordecai.
And so, the king gave Mordecai his signet ring. He told him to save the Jewish people by another means. Mordecai and Esther wrote a new edict proclaiming that all Jews can assemble and defend themselves. Then Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal robes and into the city. He shouted and rejoiced, because there was joy and honor for the Jews. According to the king's command in the original edict, the Jews were to be killed. But according to this new edict, the Jews could now stand up for themselves and defend their livelihood. The Jews then assembled in every city and in the provinces, and they struck those who would harm them. They defeated their enemies. Then Mordecai and Esther recorded these events and sent official letters to all the Jews in the provinces of Persia, near and far, urging them to celebrate in peace this event that they called Purim, because the Jews defeated their enemies and turned their sorrow into gladness and their mourning into holiday. Purim, this holiday, remains to this day as a time to celebrate God's deliverance through the boldness of a queen who chose to be available and the willingness of a king's heart to be changed by God. The end. Esther celebration. I just want to make a quick special thanks to first our amazing director, Alicia. Second, our amazing stage manager, Akira. For real, look how lifelike this all is. And she's costume director. And then also on sound and effects and everything, Krista. Thanks guys, y'all have been amazing.
And to Libby, the narrator.
Awesome. One more hand for the Esther play, hey?